G'day everyone. Look, I've had a gutful of our government failing to condemn this Israeli genocide on Gaza, and now looking like it's going to be Lebanon as well. We really need to stand up over here and say something about all this, because at the moment it's just looking more and more like in Australia we're supporting these people as they rampage through the Middle East and murder as many women and children as they possibly can, all in the name of expanding, the Israeli state. So it's just not on. Something needs to be done about it. Our government needs to stand up for these innocent people in the world that are getting killed at the moment by a bunch of absolute lunatics with bombs that are being supplied by America, who are just going through and just killing everyone, everywhere where they possibly can. This needs to be said, and I've put together some footage here just so people can really understand what Israeli society is like, what their military is like, and their attitudes towards all of this. So just have a listen to all this. Some of you probably already know this, but I've got a feeling a lot of you are going to be very surprised to watch this and to hear what's really going on and the way Israelis really think about the world. Have a listen.
The whole world has to isolate this rogue, apartheid, genocidal, maniac, serial killing, pathologically lying state. Isolate it, shame anyone who goes there. Academics, celebrities, politicians, they've been exposed for what they are. And Zionism's on its last leg. It only exists by the weight of its propaganda, and that propaganda has collapsed entirely. The world sees Israel for what it is, and it can't last for long in its current state. You cannot expect change in a society this far gone. It is full-throated fascist. And that's why they act the way they do, with full, total impunity, because they have no humanity left. This is a society so far gone with protection of a military empire, with hatred in their hearts. And we're seeing essentially the Fourth Reich today, marching forward. And there's no allied forces coming to save us. The Israeli Knesset just passed a law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners, but not Israelis. This is the true face of apartheid Israel. But this is nothing new. I saw this firsthand when I was in Israel back in 2016. Full-throated fascism.
You can't deal with these people. There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them. There's only one way. I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it.
I didn't realize this. I didn't realize how viscerally, grotesquely genocidal Israelis were. How openly fascist they would be to anyone.
Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews. We don't want the Arabs to be here.
They knew that they were on camera. That's what's so alarming to me too. I wasn't trying to hide. I wasn't doing gotcha journalism. I was going up with a camera and saying, generally, what do you think about the situation?
I think Israelis have to take over and they have to kick them away.
I was so horrified and alarmed at the genocidal rhetoric that was being espoused. Every single person, for every generation, every walk of life, they wanted ethnic cleansing. They said we should nuke them. One little girl laughing, we should kill all Arabs. Kill all Arabs.
We need to kill the Arabs. No.
It shows you the impunity back then. The arrogance to just assume this is what you guys think too, right? You're an American, you agree with me. You guys have been doing the same thing. This is who we are. We're proud racists. We're proudly fascist. I felt like I was walking into Berlin in 1932. I really felt absolutely disgusted. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, just walking a couple steps, and as white as I am, are you Arab? Are you Arab? And I'm like, I'm an American. Oh, good. We can talk about Arabs then. We can talk about how much we hate Palestinians. I saw the writing on the wall back then. I saw that there's no hope from within Israeli society. I went to rallies where they were calling to kick all the refugees out. You know, these were things that we're told Israel's a safe haven for Holocaust survivors, for genocide survivors. Well, why are all the African refugees put out in the middle of the Negev desert into a concentration camp? Why don't they want any African refugees there? They tokenize Ethiopian refugees, but then they make them take Depo-Provera birth control because they don't want them to reproduce. This is the nature of Israeli society. It's an ethno-state, and it's built on supremacy and hate, because that's what Zionism is.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs.
You have to continue to expel, you have to continue to kill to keep that artificial majority in place.
If you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second. I would press it right now. Give me that button. I'd press it right now.
There you go.
The Palestinian genocide is not just something that's been made up by the media. It's official. It is a genocide. It's been made official by the UN. Okay, they've named it. They've named it the Palestinian genocide.
Israel's sustained and systematically orchestrated assault on the Gaza Strip now has a name: the Palestinian genocide. The newly published report by the UN's Independent Commission of Inquiry is unequivocal. Israel is engaged in genocide against the Palestinian people. From now on, the name of the world's newest genocide, the Palestinian genocide, must be hammered into the discourse, boldly used, unapologetically and without fear, never forgotten. To do otherwise is genocide denial, an insult to the memory of the tens of thousands of Gazans who have been killed in what we now have a solid legal basis to call the Palestinian genocide. The Commission gathered 16,000 pieces of evidence covering the period 7 October 2023 to 31 July 2025. It reached its landmark conclusion by investigating 4 of the 5 genocidal acts defined in the 1948 Genocide Convention. Israel was determined to have engaged in all 4 of these genocidal acts as a matter of state policy. On the first, killing members of the group, the Commission concluded that over 60,000 were killed, including nearly 10,000 women and over 18,000 children. On average, 1 child is killed every hour in Gaza. As of May 2025, Israeli intelligence officials listed 8,900 militants from Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad as dead or possibly dead. Given that by this date 53,000 Palestinians had been killed, Israel was making a public admission that 83% of its victims were civilians. Hundreds of journalists have been deliberately targeted. 13 every month on average have been killed in Israel's ongoing attempt to hide from the world the truth of the Palestinian genocide. As for those striving to mitigate its humanitarian impact, Gaza has become the deadliest place in the world for aid workers. 540 have been killed, including 373 UN staff, mainly UNRWA, and 167 NGO workers. And so I turn to the second category of acts that make up the Palestinian genocide, causing serious bodily or mental harm. As of July 30, 2025, according to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, the number of people injured in Gaza stood at 146,269. UNICEF says the total of children injured between 7 October 2023 and March 2025 is over 34,000. According to OCHA, Gaza is home to the largest cohort of child amputees in modern history, many deliberately targeted. The Commission found that Israel's use of lethal weapons had resulted in long-term, life-changing, debilitating injuries, including loss of limb, traumatic brain injuries, and damaged internal organs. The consequences of this have been compounded by the lack of functioning health infrastructure. 94% of Gaza's hospitals have been damaged or destroyed. There have been frequent reports of limbs being amputated without anaesthetics and women giving birth by caesarean section unanaesthetised. According to the UN Commission, 1.9 million people have been displaced, most on average at least 6 times, some as many as 19 times. In June 2024, UNICEF stated that almost all of Gaza's 1.2 million children need mental health support. According to the Israeli authorities, more than 4,500 Palestinians in Gaza have been arrested, many transferred to facilities inside Israel in violation of the Geneva Conventions. The UN Commission received numerous reports of detainees, including children, being stripped, blindfolded, kicked, beaten, sexually assaulted, raped, and subjected to death threats and other forms of physical and psychological torture. I now turn to the third category of genocidal acts under the Genocide Convention, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Almost immediately after the 7 October attack, the Israeli authorities announced a total siege on Gaza. In December 2023, OCHA described the humanitarian situation as apocalyptic. Ladies and gentlemen, the number of bombs dropped on Gaza is extraordinary, even in comparison with major world conflicts. One military source told the Commission, Israel was dropping on Gaza in less than a week what the United States dropped on Afghanistan in a year, in a much smaller, much more densely populated area. Credible comparisons have been made between Gaza and Hiroshima in relation to the amount of civilian infrastructure destroyed, about 70%. Israel has systematically destroyed Gaza's farmland. Ground troops have demolished greenhouses. Bulldozers have toppled orchards, ploughed out crops and crushed the soil. Israeli planes have sprayed herbicides over the fields. Before October 2023, about 40% of Gaza's land was farmed. Last month, the UN reported that just 1.5% of Gaza's agricultural land now remains accessible and undamaged. That's roughly 200 hectares to feed over 2 million people. Ecocide goes hand in hand with genocide. Perhaps the most shocking act in this third category of genocidal crime is deliberate starvation, as it involves such wide-scale complicity by the Israeli bureaucracy. In August this year, the UN officially declared starvation in Gaza. The UN-backed IPC, an internationally accepted system for assessing food security, estimated that a quarter of Gaza's 2.3 million people were suffering from famine.
The Israeli people continue to tell you that they are this poor society of people who are just being bombed and abused and terrorized by the Arabs, and all they're doing is just trying to defend themselves. Well, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. They're a bunch of murdering thugs, murdering genocidal thugs, and all they want to do is kill women and children to expand their state. That is the truth of the matter.
Zionism was born from the suffering of Jewish people in Europe, culminating in the Holocaust, from a desire for a safe haven, a territory where Jews would for once be the hosts and not the eternal guests. It was framed as a return to a historic biblical homeland, and for its supporters, these two factors give it an entirely different complexion morally from other enterprises where predominantly European populations have settled far-flung parts of the world. There's no doubt that the Zionist dream has enormous emotional power. The problem, of course, is the other side of the equation, the people it was inflicted upon, the Palestinians, whose experience of dispossession and subjugation was no different from that of countless other peoples subjected to European colonialism. In fact, arguably, it's been considerably worse than many, precisely because of the license and indulgence granted to the Israeli state. Let's lay out the bald, indisputable facts. In 1948, more than 80% of the Palestinian population of what became Israel fled their homes. Now, if you want to believe this was not an act of deliberate ethnic cleansing, fine. What's undeniable is that they were never allowed to return. In 1947, they were there. In 1949, they were not. The granting of the vote to that small fragment of the Palestinian population that remained provided a democratic fig leaf for the new state, one that was blown away once the Israelis occupied Gaza and the West Bank in 1967. There, Palestinians have no right to vote for the political entity, the State of Israel, that controls their lives. Jewish settlers, on the other hand, occupying the same territory, do. Even in East Jerusalem, which, as far as the Israeli government is concerned, has been formally annexed to Israel, Palestinians cannot vote. Political rights depend upon ethnicity. That is not democracy. Israel is, and has always been, a state whose defining feature is that it's structured to ensure the domination of one ethnicity over another. What else does the term a Jewish state mean? This is the elephant in the room, the simple, blindingly obvious, undeniable fact that the Western political media class has decided that we must never mention or acknowledge, despite the fact that all of the world's leading human rights organizations, including the Israeli NGO B'Tselem, have denounced Israel as an apartheid state. Now, scour the history of the modern world. No people has ever resigned itself to being second-class citizens in their own country. Spend just 10 minutes at a checkpoint in the West Bank and you get it. The disfiguring dehumanization, the humiliation of elderly men and women forced to stand in the sun for hours waiting for 18-year-olds to search them, the brutalization of young men in particular, the daily control of rage that is the lot of every Palestinian. It is simply emotionally, psychologically intolerable.
Finally, as long as this war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu is running things, nothing is ever going to change. Attitudes are never going to change because he has been pushing things for the last 40 years or so to take down Iran. He is the reason the war started in Iraq. He has been the reason for everything bad that has happened in the Middle East over the last 40 to 50 years.
In my mind, the most difficult choice for leaders to make.
In Netanyahu's speech announcing the Rising Lioness operation, he stated,
"Our action will help make the world a much safer place."
That sounds very familiar.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
The war on Iran has been brought to you by the same people that brought you the war on Iraq.
The most compelling case for preemption against Saddam's regime, I believe, was not made by the president's powerful words this morning, but by the savage action of the terrorists themselves on September 11th. And do the various critics, especially overseas, believe that a clear connection between Saddam and September 11th must be established before we have a right to prevent the next September 11th? Well, I think not.
With very similar justifications being rolled out.
We will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
Netanyahu has been saying this for over 3 decades.
If Iran acquires a nuclear bomb, it could use any one of these shadowy groups to threaten the United States, threaten the West. Time is running out. They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs. They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
A main lobby group pushing for this war for many, many years is United Against a Nuclear Iran. This organization is full to the brim of former Israeli intelligence figures and key neocon actors. It is led by the brother of the man that brought us the war in Iraq, George Bush. Jeb Bush is the senior leadership of United Against a Nuclear Iran. Who else is with him in that position? None other than Mark Wallace, who was George Bush's representative at the United Nations during the war in Iraq. Also on the advisory board of this organization is Meir Dagan, who was the head of Israel's external intelligence agency, Mossad, during the war on Iraq. Another key creature of the US and Israeli military establishment who is featured on the advisory board is Dennis Ross, somebody who's worked closely with the Israel lobby during his time in consecutive US governments. Another key figure on the advisory board of United Against the Nuclear Iran is Zohar Palti, the former director of intelligence at Israel's external intelligence agency, Mossad. In addition to that, a key advocate of United Against a Nuclear Iran is John Bolton, the war hawk who brought us the wars under Bush.
There's no question that Saddam sought weapons of mass destruction, and that is what justified his removal. In wartime, truth is so important it should be surrounded by a bodyguard of lies.
Do you really believe that?
Absolutely.
You would lie in order to preserve the truth.
If I had to say something I knew was false to protect American national security, I would do it.
The overthrow of Saddam Hussein, that military action was a resounding success.
The same people that brought you the war in Iraq are now bringing you the war against Iran.
The declared policy of the United States of America should be the overthrow of the mullah's regime in Tehran.
Ambassador, you have long advocated for an action like the one Israel took overnight. Got to get your quick reaction to it.
I think it's off to a promising start.
Good to see you again, Ambassador. What do you make of this first wave of strikes by Israel?
Well, thank God for Bibi Netanyahu. He has cut through the fog and done, frankly, what should have been done as long as 20 years ago.
36 million people across 3,000 demonstrations globally protested against the war in Iraq. But our political elites still took us into it. The US occupation displaced 1 in 25 Iraqis and killed over 1 million. In the first month of the US occupation of Iraq, it dropped 29,199 bombs. So when Israel bombs a nuclear facility in Iran, you have to remember the bombing of Fallujah in Iraq caused a 38-fold increase in leukemia and a 10-fold increase in breast cancer among women. The bombings which take place today will continue to reverberate for decades to come. There are those who talk about the idea of reparations today for Iraq, but some people did get reparations. Halliburton was given $18 million worth of reparations by the US government for supposed lost profits during the pre-2003 government. Who else got reparations for the Iraq war? Bechtel got $7 million. Mobil got $2.3 million. Shell got $1.6 million. Nestle got $2.6 million. Pepsi got $3.8 million. But Israeli farmers received $8 million, and Israeli hotels and travel agencies received $15 million in reparations from Iraq's money for supposed reparations of lost profits. Not only will they bomb you, kill you, and destroy your people, they will make you pay for it.
So at the end of the day, the Australian government needs to wake up, get on top of this, and start condemning these genocidal maniacs, because the Australian people are not like this. We do not agree with this stuff. We do not want to support this sort of stuff. And we certainly don't need history to remember Australia as being the country who went along with Israel and ultimately America with their little genocidal outings all over the Middle East. That's not Australia. That's not us. So wake up, elbow. and Penny Wong, wake up. All right. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.